Hey everyone, and welcome to our woodland garden. I today want to talk about dry shade because I know in my garden it encompasses about 80% of our garden, and that's front and back. It's after 20 years of gardening here, and also we moved in, we did have some mature trees, white oaks and pines. That's the only native trees that were on the property. But it took me a long time to learn how to garden in dry shade. I think they're considered the two dirtiest words in gardening because it can be so challenging and frustrating. There's a lot of competition, there's a lack of water, and there's a lack of light usually. So trying to find that perfect combination of plants that are going to work can be hard. So that's, I guess, the first tip. You're going to have some trial and error, so be prepared for that. Compost, compost, compost. Lots of organic matter. That is so important. And remember, organic matter breaks down quickly. So you can't just amend your soil and then think, oh, my soil's improved. It's improved, but it's improved temporarily. It breaks down fast. It's pulled down through the soil. And it's something you have to constantly be adding, and particularly if you have heavy clay soils or if you have dry sandy soils like we have. Obviously loamy soils, you might not need to add as much because they might already have a lot of organic matter in them. You would think with the amount of debris that falls, we would have more, but for whatever reasons, it doesn't break into, I guess because of the sandy soil, it gets through really fast. So what we have found works best is either your mushroom compost, your homemade compost, or cow manure. Fully composted cow manure really works great for us. You see on my videos, I use a lot of it because it just gets results. So I do use a lot of that, but I do try to break it up, hoping that I'll get different microbes in my soil that I might not be getting if I only use one type of compost. So just to have a little bit more diversity. Using pots for height. Shade plants are usually 2 feet and under, so it can start to kind of just look like a carpet, and in my opinion, be a little bit boring to the eye. Sometimes, if you can get like one single plant to go under an expanse, that can look gorgeous. But for the most part, I like a lot of height and differences in height, and I like it to look very natural. So you'll see I'll put some tall plants up front, and mostly I do you follow the rules and put the tall ones towards the back, but I do like to put ones that will grow taller in the front also, just so it looks more natural, like a woodland. So that's kind of a tip of try not to make it look so planted, because nature wouldn't plant that way. It's not going to plant all of your tallest to the back and front. You don't want to block your view, of course, but you do want to kind of make it look a little bit more sporadic. Bulbs can, in the spring and in the summer for shade, can work great. They tend to like dry. So even though caladiums, once they're up, like some moisture, they do great in dry shade. They do amazing. And then their bulbs, when they're down in the ground, so they don't rot, they like that it's dry down there. So they tend to work really great for us. I did say, pots, putting pots can really add height. And also opening up your canopy a bit, just kind of getting between your trees and pruning, artful pruning. Do it slowly so you don't accidentally take a branch that was really pivotal in your garden, so you don't want to do that. But if you do a little bit and you leave it natural, but you're letting in a lot of light, so just that hour, that sun might be up ahead, it's going to add a little bit more light. Limbing up your trees, trimming the bottom branches off the trees lets in a lot of light. It also, like trees like Japanese maples, they get gorgeous bases to them, and they're almost like a sculpture sometimes. So that's, you know, looking bonsai. They can be quite beautiful. So it's nice to kind of open that up and see that. It's a little hard at first when you don't have plants growing under there to do it, but you will have better luck getting and more success getting plants to grow if you open up that light a bit and just live with it being a little bold at first. So that can really work. Buy species of plants that are big for their type. In the beginning, I used to just, for budget, buy very small hostas. So I would buy a lot of them, $5 hostas. Everybody sees them at the big box stores. But they really never, their max size was 16 inches or less, 12 inches. Buying one fancy hosta that grows enormous in 2 years is going to give you more coverage to begin with. It's also going to grow slower in dry shade, so it's going to check its habit a bit also. So you're not going to have to divide it as much as you do when it's out in more light, getting a lot more water. I have Frances on the other side of our property where they get much more light and much more water. And they are enormous. And these, they're big, but not near as big as the ones on the other side. So it's kind of nice. I won't have to divide these. So yeah, so buy plants that are big for their species, big ferns, things like that. And I never really thought about that. I was buying for price, but it's better to buy one big fancy hosta than 5 small hosta that are never going to fill that space anyway. Adding boulders and stone, believe it or not, that's something I've learned over the years, is that they create pockets and nooks and crannies that hold water. And this dry creek bed that I put in front of here was designed exactly to do that. Underneath, I don't know if everybody knows the bog garden trick. If you want a bog garden, dig in, put down landscape fabric so it holds water longer, and you can get plants that prefer more boggy conditions to kind of really take in those areas, because that landscaping fabric is going to hold water longer, but it will eventually drain. So I put a strip only about maybe that wide all along underneath this dry creek bed. I put the rock down, and then I put the mulch in between it to look good. And this holds water. And when I did that, the plants started all to thrive along here, along the edge where I was having a harder time. Because remember, along your edge, you're going to have plants that, okay, you're trying to put shade plants in, but they're getting a lot more light here. So you might need part shade, but some areas are going to not get part shade. They're going to get more shade. So it's really kind of a game of trying to figure out, well, how much light do you have in that initial spot? So something like this, along giving them more water, is going to give you more opportunity to kind of limp some of these plants along to get them to adapt. And most plants will adapt, particularly the cultivars everybody knows, ferns, hostas, spireas. Surprisingly, spirea is a full sun plant. Spireas do amazing in dry shade, amazing. Some of them may not bloom as well, but if you just want a shrubby foliage, they do extremely well. Yeah, so adding height with pots, boulders for not only aesthetic reasons, adding height, adding interest, different sculptures can work. And so yeah, so I think that they're the main things. You know, just be prepared for trial and error. Okay, so I think the best way to show you is to give you a quick tour, and maybe some other things will come up in my head. I don't really script these or plan for them, so I kind of just talk off the cuff. But maybe some things will come up, or if you have any kind of questions that I didn't cover, they're my best tips for really establishing plants in a dry shade condition. So we'll get started on the tour. Our woodland garden starts at the fountain. And there you'll see our first red Japanese maple. We have some hosta, astilbe, endless summers, a hosta that's been living basically in the dark for many years, 18 years, doing great. Pachysandra. I just love the way the Pachysandra kind of is draping around the base of the maple. It's so nice because it remains evergreen. And it's been there at least 12 years and fairly well behaved. Again, dry shade, you can, it's going to slow down the plants quite a bit. Generally, that's, every rule can be broken by a plant. We have azalea here, the pots, which again have caladiums, some lamian, and each one has a heucherella, which is kind of hard to see because of but super healthy. The heucherella and the lamian will stay in there all winter long. I do not put my pots away, so they remain in, and I put bulbs in them, and I'll put bulbs around where the caladium bulbs were. There'll be some spring bulbs. And beneath here, if you've seen the planting of this dead tree, it's done so well, but it's really been successful because it has dropped all of its pieces, which then spontaneously grow underneath the tree. So we now have a succulent garden. This little guy we rescued from Lowe's, this succulent, and just put it in there for a silvery color amongst all the green that has really taken shape here. We call this area our secret garden because this dead tree used to canopy over it and create an umbrella, and you had to kind of duck to get in there years ago. So we still call it the secret garden. There's climbing hydrangea, which interestingly enough has been sporadically blooming all season, all summer. It's about, let me look. It's actually August 16th, mid-August, and it still has some blooms on it. We have a little path that goes all the way through to our dining table. The kids love to play in here. I'm going to have to clean the tile because they've gotten a little bit slippery, and the kids were sliding and falling, and it did not stop them. Okay, so I'll try to, at this point, back up and show you this tip as a whole of this particular garden to give you some context. Someone had mentioned if I could back up and show the frog pond. Unfortunately, this bed blocks me from doing that because even if I back up, all the trees would block it from seeing it. So I can only get so far. Okay, so as you come around the bend here, past the secret garden, there is another Japanese maple. As I said, there's a total of 3. We have an oak leaf hydrangea. I believe that is Alice. A hosta that's been here for 18 years, doing quite well. Some more sedums. Really beautiful, just growing. They have been overtaken by the hosta, but just growing, and the pollinators also love these sedums when they bloom. We have a common daylily here. Some Nepeta. This whole area is probably the area that gives me the most trouble. It is really a strange light area. And you'll see at the end of the video, if you want to stick around to see it, what I just did to kind of rejuvenate this area. And I put it in, I'm trying the black-eyed Susans since they're more of a native, and alliums, millennium. I cut down and they look like stalks right now, but these are, they are a daisy, banana cream 1, I think by Proven Winners. We have Coreopsis that's now growing back. I cut them back and I moved that banana cream out because it was getting crushed by it was far back underneath the oak leaf hydrangea had grown and kind of just dwarfed it. So I moved that out front to see if it does a little bit better and gets more light with the Nepeta. Put the black-eyed Susans in because they can do really well in part sun. And the Millennium alliums. And we'll see how that goes. But I do have a video and I will show you that at the end. Of me kind of making over this area, and you'll see in one part I'll show you how sandy our soil is. We have my mother-in-law, she has since passed away. These were her iris, the bearded iris, and they're very special to us. Right now their rhizomes are not uncovered, which they would bloom better if we uncovered them, but it's kind of difficult to keep them uncovered. Every time I uncover them, I think animals and stuff, they just push everything back on the mulch. And we have so much debris that falls that they could be blooming better for us. Another pot over here with the same arrangement in it. There's a better shot of the interior of the Japanese maple. And it kind of canopies over. And I think I can show you up at the corner of our house over top of the Woodland Garden and the potager is a white oak. So I hope that gives you a better perspective of why we don't get a lot of light in here. And there's a shot down the path. We're getting ready to overseed this grass in probably another 2 weeks. More hosta is still bee. I just leave these still bee blooms on. I just like the way they look, even brown. We have a phantom hydrangea that's doing quite well. Here you can kind of get a close-up of the caladiums. I just think that makes a gorgeous look, this combination of plants. I am so pleased with it this year. That's an autumn fern hosta. Kind of tucked in the back, I have a moss garden in an old cement bird bath. I absolutely love it. Moss gardens can be high maintenance. They do attract a lot of weeds. I don't water it any special way. It just kind of self-maintains. And I just weed it once a week. I guess I get in there and I weed it to keep it looking good. Have a limelight hydrangea. This is a first-year limelight, and it's probably about 8 feet high at this point, doing quite well. You can see a little bit up close of the detail on the pots. 2 of the pots we've chosen. We have 2 at the ends, and then I still have a plastic pot in the center. I haven't found the right one for that area yet. Kind of take my time and find ones that we really love. It's another hydrangea there. I do not remember at this time, and I'm sorry which one that is. It's not blooming right now. So I'm not exactly sure which one that is. We have a wee white that's going out of bloom here. That's a Proven Winners wee white. Just various hostas. Try to vary their color. Blues, greens, chartreuse. This is Candy Corn Spirea. It turns fire engine red in the spring. It's gorgeous. And it's doing really well there. Another hosta azalea that's doing really well. So that gives us spring interest. We have a lot of spring bulbs in here. This is the dwarf arborvitae that we'll be taking out because it's just not getting enough light, unfortunately. Just have a wagon wheel tucked in there on an old dead tree. I keep them all. All my dead trees are still here. I just love playing with their stumps and the way the fungus will grow on them. I just started a giant hosta back there, so we'll see how that takes. It didn't really grow yet this year, but I'm hoping it's going to take in there. I've been giving it a lot of organic matter. Another fern, doing quite well. These hostas are the first ones that we attempted to grow under here. And they should not be that small. They have been there at least 18 years. They are the first ones we put in. They are now doing a lot better with the amendments, but they actually look like the little miniature hostas. That look at the leaf difference on them. And yet they aren't miniature hostas. They are just regular, probably should have gotten each about 16 feet wide, 16 inches wide. Caladiums, painted fern. Here's some sweet woodruff. It's behaving quite well right now. It's been there a couple years. We'll see if it'll really take. It seems happy. It's just not spreading. We get a lot of volunteer maples that we have to pull out. Here's some caladiums. These are stelladores. You can see there are old bloom stalks on there. I have to clean them up. They do bloom, even though this is the darkest area in here of this bed. We put some Francie hostas in last year, and they're already pretty big. I backtracked a little just to show how beautiful the colors of the caladiums kind of play off the colors in these hydrangeas. In the Awkward Space Garden tour that I had, or makeover that I had done. And I just wanted to show it's just so beautiful right now. They are complementing each other so well. Here's a closer look. If you've seen the short video I did last week, you've already seen them, but I wanted to show you just how gorgeous they look right now as they're aging out and changing from that blue color to this lovely rose color. It's just really feminine and antique looking and complementing the colors that are in the Woodland Garden so well, with the wine colored red maples and the caladiums. Some of the caladiums are taking on a more burgundy hue. Very beautiful. As you come around the corner from the potager and is over there. The Woodland Garden, the side we just looked at, is on that side of the path. So just to keep your bearings. And you come around, and then as you come around, we have the bike, our dining set. And this is the brighter side of the Woodland Garden. That's why I'm saying you'll have sides that get sun, you'll have areas of darkness, you'll have part sun, you'll have everything going on in some of these dry shade gardens. So you can see the difference. This Francie hosta You see it? I mean, it's absolutely huge. It's got to be about 3 feet wide at its tips, square at this point. And then you go under into the darker areas. And these, I mean, it's probably not even half the size. And we put them on the outskirts away from the tree base. But they're all doing very well in there. And then just scattered the caladiums throughout. You can see the little, like some of the irrigation sticking up. I used to use it. I have not used it at all this year. And I'll back up a little bit so you can kind of see where we're at. We put a very tiny little pony wall here. This is acting as a retaining wall to keep the soil in. We were having problems with soil kind of drifting down onto the patio and just making a mess, and it was difficult to clean up. By putting the wall there, and then we put landscape fabric just on the back side of it, it's held much more soil in, and we're having a lot less problems when we get those really bad storms that just send so much rain down that it tries to shoot all the soil through it. But that's worked out really great. Best thing we ever did. Now the patio stays fairly clean, and I only have to really blow it off every couple weeks. We have a gorgeous, gorgeous azalea in front of the limelight. This is the other side of the limelight. This is the side that gets much more sun. So you'll see a bit more blooms on it, although it seems happy. And this is a trick we do all the time, is if you see in there, there is a iron wrought looking gate in there, and we put that at the base of all of our hydrangeas to kind of keep them from laying down on the plants below them. It works out really good. There's a couple more I still have to do. That way they can kind of droop over, but they're not laying on the plants, and the plants below can get some light. This azalea is a gardenia azalea. Its flowers are absolutely stunning. They look like gardenias. They're gorgeous. In this pot, this is one of my favorite pots. Ray got this for me for Mother's Day. It's a little dirty right now, but I absolutely love the black and white. It's covered in some annuals, and then also some Dusty Miller, which is perennial here in 6B. It comes back every year on its own if you leave it in the pots. This pot won't be left out during the winter. It's too special to me, so that one will be emptied. I'll probably put the Dusty Miller into the landscape. It overwintered in that metal watering can over there from last year's arrangement, and I never replanted it. It's actually got a weed coming out of it, I see. I don't have to get to that. There's some creeping phlox coming over the wall, some sedum, some red sedums. Autumn Joy sedum. We have a little rosy Weigelia, some Coreopsis, different stone crops coming over the wall. Probably need a little bit of cleanup. Different sedums and just tucked in, and more phlox. Some guara that's out of bloom right now, but still I love the look of it. I love its red and green look. This is the pricker that was completely taking over the entire place. It will never get rid of it. It just will come up for the rest of all time. Oh, the potato vine, that is in recovery right now because it was on the bike, and I guess the wire tie broke in the last storm. It didn't break the pot, but it fell off the bike. So I have to get that back up. The bike is doing well. The flowers in the bike are doing, they probably could use a rejuvenation. So I did kind of cut the bottoms, but I need to maybe get some fertilizer in there and just do a little bit more trimming and alleviate some of the heaviness. But it's all doing really well. And this is the spirea path. The spirea still has its blooms on it. I never got to taking them off, but I do know that the birds kind of eat the seeds. We don't have problems with our spirea seeding around. It will expand, but it just kind of goes out and you can pull it and then that's it. We don't really have a lot of problems with the spirea. I know some people do, but we just cut a path. We prune this once a year and that's it. And you can still see some of the climbing hydrangeas, little sporadic blooms it's been putting out. So this is the other side of the path to the secret garden. You can take a look at the bike and what it looks like now. You can barely see the bike anymore. Still under there. I love it still. The Blushing Bride Endless Summers have gone from pure white, the whitest hydrangeas I've ever seen, to this blush color. They blush blue first, and then they blush to this rosy wine color. Absolutely gorgeous. And then the Lamian underneath them. I love that combination of hydrangea and Lamian. Those Lamian bloomed pink, and they bloomed all spring, and now they're starting to bloom again. You can kind of see their little buds are just starting. They'll start blooming again. And the combination really was stunning all year. They got a little bit beat up in a storm we had, but I pruned them really hard and they're just coming back. You see all that really more chartreusey green growth. That's all the new growth since I cut them. This is Phantom Hydrangea. And I'm hoping her stems get a little bit stronger, but she bloomed really well. And she's kind of just drapey looking at this point. So yes, so we're back at we've done a full circle around. If you look through here, we're back at the fountain and our screened-in gazebo. And oh, okay, there's a shot. You can get a little bit of a shot of the frog pond across the way to get some perspective of where the frog pond actually is. It's across from the fountain. Yes, okay, so that's our woodland garden in the back. This is just one of our dry shade gardens. We have several. We have two very large ones up front, which have been kind of covered in vlogs and makeover videos, I'm sure, but I have not done a recent update in probably over a year of those. It's just hard to get to everything. Okay, so it's getting pretty stormy out here right now, so I'm going to conclude this tour. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Have a great day.